All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer where we're unpacking one of India's most ambitious and honestly most debated infrastructure developments happening right now, the Great Nicobar project. We are talking about a massive 72,000 crore rupee vision. That's roughly $9 billion US, just to put it into perspective. And it is dominating geopolitical discussions for a very good reason. We're looking at a sweeping transformation here that fundamentally touches upon geography, global trade routes, and of course, international security.
So, you might be wondering, why exactly is this remote island suddenly at the absolute center of global attention? Historically, Great Nicobar has just been this tiny, untouched speck of land in the Andaman Sea, way out of the geopolitical crosshairs. I mean, it's the southernmost point of India, actually sitting closer to Indonesia than to the Indian mainland. Yet, practically overnight, it's become the focal point of a monumental infrastructure initiative. To really grasp why this shift is happening, we have to zoom out. We need to look beyond the island itself and understand its exact placement on the global maritime chessboard. It's basically a giant puzzle piece falling into place.
Really quick, before we dive into the deep end, if you're prepping for competitive exams like the UPSC, CDS, AFCAT, or sitting for the SSB interview, listen up. This explainer is going to be an invaluable resource for your current affairs and geopolitics prep. Examiners are heavily focused right now on topics that intersect national security, infrastructure growth, and ecological impact. And the Great Nicobar project? It literally encapsulates all of those pillars. So it's a highly probable topic for your upcoming essays, group discussions, and interviews. Grab your notebooks.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering number 1, mastering the Malacca Strait. Number 2, India's maritime ambitions. Number 3, the China factor. And number 4, we'll weigh the economic versus environmental realities. Let's hit it.
Section 1. Mastering the Malacca Strait, a highly strategic maritime choke point connecting the Indian Ocean to the Pacific.
Now, the Malacca Strait is a primary artery for global shipping. And when I say choke point, it is no exaggeration here. Imagine roughly 80,000 to 90,000 massive commercial vessels squeezing through this narrow corridor every single year. It handles about a quarter of all traded goods globally, and it heavily features critical energy supplies. We're talking millions of barrels of oil moving from the Middle East straight to major Asian economies like Japan, South Korea, and China. Well, Great Nicobar sits precisely at the western entrance of this strait. It is literally the sentinel guarding the gates. Whoever holds a strategic vantage point here effectively holds the ability to monitor the pulse of global commerce. If a bottleneck, or say, a disruption were to happen right here, it would send shockwaves through the entire global supply chain almost instantly.
Moving right along to Section 2, India's maritime ambitions. Developing Great Nicobar is an absolute game-changer. It's a massive stepping stone for India in securing these vital waters. See, for decades, the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago was strategically kind of underutilized. It mostly served as a quiet outpost. But now, India is rapidly transitioning from a defensive, purely coastal mindset to a highly assertive, blue water capability. The master plan is huge. It involves building a massive international container transshipment terminal at Galatha Bay, deep draft naval facilities capable of hosting incredibly large warships, a dual-use military and civilian airport, and a gas and solar-based power plant. The whole shebang. By anchoring this level of heavy infrastructure right at the mouth of the Andaman Sea, India ensures it can independently protect its trade routes, and more importantly, it establishes India as a net security provider for the wider Indian Ocean region. It gives them the capability to project power and maintain stability deep into the Indo-Pacific.
All right, Section 3, the China factor. We simply cannot fully discuss the Indian Ocean without factoring in expanding foreign naval presence, particularly from China. Now, over recent years, there's been a very steady increase in strategic maneuvers and naval deployments across various maritime pathways in the region. China has been super active in securing port access and building infrastructure across the Indian Ocean rim. So the Great Nicobar project serves as a direct, geographic counterbalance to this expanding influence. By developing sovereign territory into a heavily fortified maritime hub, India establishes a really robust deterrent. It ensures a multipolar dynamic in the region. Basically, it maintains a balance of power where no single nation can unilaterally dominate the critical sea lines of communication that, frankly, our entire global economy relies upon.
Finally, Section 4. Economic versus environmental realities.
This is where things get really complex. This project represents a severe tension between undeniable economic opportunity on one hand and very real environmental fragility on the other. On the economic ledger, transforming this island into a global transshipment hub could capture massive shipping revenue that currently totally bypasses the region for ports like Colombo or Singapore. It is projected to handle millions of TEUs, those are 20-foot equivalent units of cargo, driving major job creation and firmly cementing India's maritime dominance. But Great Nicobar is a remarkably pristine biosphere. I mean, the island is blanketed in ancient tropical rainforests. It is home to incredibly rare endemic wildlife, most notably the giant leatherback turtle, which specifically nests right there in Galathea Bay, and the Nicobar megapode. Crucially, we also have to remember the island is the ancestral home of vulnerable indigenous communities, particularly the Shompen and Nicobarese tribes, who have lived in relative isolation for thousands of years. The current plan involves developing roughly 130 square kilometers of untouched forest just to build a greenfield city from scratch. So, the ecological impact of felling hundreds of thousands of trees and pouring millions of tons of concrete onto such a delicate ecosystem? Yeah, that is a subject of intense ongoing debate among conservationists, scientists, and policymakers right now.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to really chew on. As global geopolitics continue to heat up, how can any nation successfully balance these massive strategic maritime ambitions with the absolute necessity of environmental preservation? Honestly, it's the ultimate tightrope walk of the 21st century. The Great Nicobar project really forces us to ask, what is the true cost of strategic security and economic advancement? And can we engineer solutions that protect our borders without destroying our natural heritage in the process? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep this question in the back of your mind as you continue your studies and follow global developments. See you next time.